She's sung all over the world in 7 continents.
She's a Seattle treasure.
She's performed with Ray Charles.
She originated the Total Experience Gospel Choir.
She helped give kids self-esteem.
She turned a lot of kids around.
She helps break down racial barriers.
She just lifts your spirit.
I'm from Carthage, Texas, a little East Texas town, just a few miles from Shreveport, Louisiana. My father was a pastor of the church, and my mother a school teacher, and I'm number 5 of 8 siblings. And we had a big farm. We were raised on 33 acres of land. So we picked cotton, we picked tomatoes and beans and corn, and did all the things that farm families do every morning before we went to school. We were dirt poor, but we weren't poor. I moved to Seattle, Washington in October of 1964. I looked around when I got off the bus and I said, where are the black folks? Ain't no black folks here. And it took me a long time to find the black people. It was just like the South, basically, where blacks and whites didn't mix too much. On the job, yes. But as soon as the job was over, the mixing ceased. The churches were all black, or all white, or all Asian, or whatever. It is different now. The churches do mix, and there's a lot of mixed marriages now. I do not feel that racism in the Pacific Northwest has improved. It's smarter. It's more subtle. Bridge over troubled waters. In my head, I'm singing a gospel song. Jesus being my bridge over whatever life has thrown me. I can make it over there. I can fly over that bridge. I can make it. So when we get to the end of that song, I'm emotionally wiped out, sometimes in tears, because I think about it and think about my humble beginnings and how I got over. He's been like a bridge over the troubled waters of my life, and here I am. When I first came to Seattle, I was looking for a job and finally landed a job at a bank. At that bank, they saw my college education and all of the reasons to put me up front, except they couldn't put me up front because I was African American. So they gave me a job in the basement of the building. And they discovered that this girl is so fast, we're going to give her a promotion. So finally, after working there 2 years, they promoted me from the basement to the first floor. When I became a teller, African Americans who came in the bank were shocked, absolutely shocked, and spent lots of time at my window congratulating me. It was like when you are a black person and one does something outstanding, black people as a whole feel we are arriving. It's a whole generation, it's a whole race of people who say, yes. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and all of the dreams that you dare to dream of really do come true. Now someday I'll wish upon a star way up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops way above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. If those tiny, tiny little bluebirds fly over the rainbow, then why can't I? We were on the front page of the Facts this week, you know.
Kind of like this.
Kind of like this. Well, no, it was kind of like this. And people were wondering, who that white boy Pat guy? I said, I like him young and strong. And I didn't know he was white. You white? Tell me, I didn't got nothing to do with no color. You know, people need to forget about that part. Just look at people as people. Amen. And so, I should have got an applause or an amen or something behind that one. Ignorance bothers me. Being judgmental bothers me. Don't judge me by what you think I ought to be. Open your heart, open your mind, and receive me. Get to know me before you judge me. And so therefore, I hate ignorance in any fashion. I just detest it. I was hired by the Seattle School District to teach gospel music because all these black kids were not participating in the traditional music program. And so I decided, well, okay, if they want to hire me, I will. And I started at Franklin, and then it spread out to several other schools here in the Seattle area. And after a while, when they decided that they no longer wanted this kind of music in the school system, and I worked with all these groups, I told them, well, that's fine, we'll just go to a church. So I took it to Mount Zion Baptist Church. So we brought all these choirs together, and together we called them the Total Experience Gospel Choir. And so it's been 32 years now. We're working on our 32nd year this year. I didn't appeal to any particular kind of kid, but they found me. Kids who were on the borderline of becoming troublesome would find their way into the Total Experience Gospel Choir. And every time we'd go out to sing, it was just standing ovation after standing ovation. And that in itself helped to turn a lot of these children around. They felt like they belonged to something positive, and they enjoyed hearing people compliment them, and their self-esteem just went through the roof. Many of those children who were in the first 5 years of the Total Experience Choir are now your doctors and your lawyers and your teachers and your preachers and your builders and your educators. They've done so well, and so few of them ever hit the penal system. And I'm so proud of that. When I was a little girl growing up in Carthage, Texas, my mother and father were a little different. My mother was very progressive, being an educated woman. She was always in charge of the Easter play. And the Staten kids were very talented, so we would come to the forefront and do a lot of theatrical type things on the stage. Well, I lost that up until 1985. And this woman by the name of Rebecca Wells calls me up out of nowhere and says to me, "I've heard you sing, and I've seen your choir perform, and I would like to know if you would like to be a part of my new show."
Minister of music, give me a C chord. We wake up in the morning, before we get out of bed, we's wrapped up in love. Hot legs on top of yours, children at the door, saying, "Mama, get me this, and Mama, get me that," and music next door, going chicky bang, chicky bang, chicky bang, bang, bang.
When the show opened, I, of course, was criticized by a lot of my peers for being in a play that was not religious.
I went 25 years of my life a spiritual orphan. I was an orphan with a good body.
I never had so much fun in my life. It was so good, which set the stage for my theatrical situation in Seattle. I am in the public eye so much, it seems, that people wonder if I have a family. I do have a family. I have a husband of 40 years. His name is Benny. He's also a licensed and ordained minister. At the present, he is the head chaplain at the Juvenile Detention Center. He's retired after 31 years of teaching in the public schools. I have 2 children, Julie and Patrick, who have given me 3 grandsons. My daughter is a speech pathologist. My son is a disc jockey, like his mama. We have sang before kings, queens, potentates, politicians of all kinds, several presidential candidates who came through. We sang for them, and then for our former President Bill Clinton. We have performed with so many of our leading gospel and secular stars. We sang with Ray Charles and Quincy Jones. We have been blessed to sing at least 75% around the world. We have been on 5 continents. We have performed in 27 countries. The highlight of travel outside of the United States for me was in Kazan, Russia in 1992. We were in Kazan in this beautiful opera house, and they hadn't allowed gospel music of any kind, any religious music, to be done in 72 years. And we went over there, it was about 65 of us, and it was a musician from Seattle, Kent Stevenson, and my son, Patrick Wright. And the 3 of us were the only African Americans in this entourage that went over, and people had surrounded the opera house because it took a whole month's wages just to pay to get in to hear the music. And people had given that whole month's wages just to hear this choir from Seattle, Washington.
Amazing Grace, чудная молитва.
And I started to sing Amazing Grace. And this woman was way up in the balcony, and there were these people from the KGB, still in uniform and still with the rifles, but they, things were a whole lot better. And they were trying to keep her from getting to the stage, but she got to the stage, and she puts this bouquet of tulip, and she bows at me, and she's tears running down her face, and she says in Russian to me, "Please keep singing. I remember that song. My mother sang that song to me." How sweet the sound that saved. Everybody like to change the words to a soul like me. A wretch undone, wretch undone, like me. I've been asked to, along with the choir, to come and do several workshops, gospel music workshops. We can rock and we can dance at the same time rhythmically and still sing. And so I teach people how to do that. And sometimes that part is kind of difficult, teaching people how to dance and clap and sing at the same time. But we always, at the end of the workshop, by golly, we've made it.
I would now like to introduce you to the amazing Pat Wright, who is going to start you on this workshop journey.
Nothing brings people together like music. It cuts across all the barriers that seem to separate us in our society. Don't y'all get too loud on me, because they got to hear me. To study war no more. I'm going to lay down my burdens down by the riverside. To study war no more. That was a hidden code. Had nothing to do with wars, except the war of slavery. I'm going to meet you down by the riverside tonight so that we don't have to do this kind of work anymore. There will be boats down there waiting on us. We just have to get down there. You have to slip away from the plantation down to the water's edge. And by the stars that light the sky at night, we're going to slip away to study no more slavery. But now, you know, we figured if we came out and said, yeah, we escaping tonight. gonna get us, right? So we had to learn code language in order to do what we had to do. So, gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside, gonna lay down my sword and shield, gonna lay down my cotton sack, all of that to get to freedom. I ain't gonna be a slave no more. Ours is an oral history anyway. The stories that we tell are stories that were given to us from our foreparents. It's important to me that when we sing a song, that we understand where that song came from.
I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more. Study war no more.
That's it, that's it. Who did that? Who done that? Oh, you done it. That's it. Okay, Papa, sing that second line.
Study war no more. Study war no more.
That's it. Study war no, study war no more. Well, I ain't gonna.
Study war no more. Study war no more. Study war no more.
No.
Study war no more.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we don't learn nothing else today, we accomplish that.
Gotta be slow.
And I like that. Okay. Gospel has become a household word in Europe, not necessarily in America. A lot of our earlier stars, Langston Hughes, all those people had to go to Europe to get their beginnings because they were not accepted here in Hollywood. Skin too black, we don't know what to do with that black face. We don't know what to do with that kinky hair, lips too big. Isn't it interesting how people go out and get stuff put in their lips now and in their backsides to imitate what African Americans have naturally, because that's the way we're just framed in Africa. I really get into that song. I believe I can fly because I really do know that I can. I don't have any better sense than to believe that there's nothing too hard for me to do, even in my older age, that if I put my heart to it, if I believe it, I can do it, and I just get out there and try.
I was on